Children are adequate sacrifices, but why them in particular? Children play host to pure souls that have yet to live a life in a mortal body. These souls are harder to convert into demons than regular souls. Additionally, I run the risk of that soul escaping and being eaten by another demon. The souls of adults? Malleable like clay and easier to influence, so they share my ideals. Moloch. Moloch, also Molech, is a figure mentioned in the Hebrew Bible and later Jewish, Christian, and occult traditions. He is associated with fire rituals and, in biblical sources, with the sacrifice of children. Moloch was a fallen archangel that became an archdemon and prince of hell that masqueraded as a pagan fertility god. He is infamous for his appetite towards children of the faithful. The name derives from the Semitic root Mlk, meaning king. The Hebrew spelling is identical to the word for king. Some scholars argue that the biblical vocalization, Molech, may reflect a deliberate alteration to associate the term with shame. In Punic and Phoenician inscriptions, the term Mlk appears in sacrificial contexts, leading to debate over whether it refers to a specific deity, a title meaning the king, or a category of offering. No surviving inscription definitively identifies a deity explicitly named Moloch. Moloch is mentioned primarily in Leviticus, Jeremiah, 2 Kings. Moloch was the god of the Ammonites, portrayed as a bronze statue with a calf's head adorned with a royal crown and seated on a throne. His arms were extended to receive the child victims sacrificed to him. Milton wrote that Moloch was a frightening and terrible demon covered with mothers' tears and children's blood. He appears in the Old Testament as a god that Moses forbade the Israelites to worship. Moloch worship was practiced by the Canaanites, Phoenician, and related cultures in North Africa and the Levant. The texts prohibit Israelites from giving their children to Molech or causing them to pass through the fire. These acts are described as abominations. The Valley of Hinnom, later known as Gehenna, is associated with these rites. In later Jewish and Christian theology, Gehenna became a symbol of hell or divine punishment. The biblical texts present the practice as real and ongoing in certain periods, particularly prior to religious reforms under kings such as Josiah. The phrase, "passing through the fire," has been interpreted in several ways. Literal immolation, direct child sacrifice by burning. Ritual purification or dedication, symbolic passing between flames. Votive offering during crisis, extreme sacrifice in times of war or famine. The biblical narrative presents the act as literal child sacrifice. Some modern scholars agree that the most straightforward reading suggests burning. Excavations at Carthage uncovered a Tophet, a sacred precinct containing urns filled with cremated remains of infants and small animals. Inscriptions found there include references to Mlk offerings. Interpretations vary. Some scholars argue the Tophet provides evidence of institutionalized child sacrifice in Phoenician and Punic religion. Others contend the remains represent infants who died naturally and were cremated in a ritualized burial context. Ancient Greek and Roman authors, including Diodorus Siculus, describe Carthaginian child sacrifice during times of crisis. These accounts are sometimes viewed as hostile propaganda. No archaeological inscription from Carthage explicitly names Moloch as a deity. Moloch existed within the broader religious environment of the ancient Levant, which included deities such as El and Baal. There is no confirmed textual evidence equating Moloch with El or Baal. Some scholars suggest shared themes of kingship and sacrifice within the broader Canaanite religious framework, but direct identification is unproven. In post-biblical Jewish literature, Moloch becomes increasingly demonized. Rabbinic sources describe a bronze idol heated from within, though this imagery does not appear in the biblical text itself. He is depicted as a massive humanoid bull with demonic features. Rabbis claim that in the famous statue of Moloch, there were 7 kinds of cabinets. The first was for flour, the second for turtle doves, the third for an ewe, the fourth for a ram, the fifth for a calf, the sixth for a beef, and the seventh for a child. It is because of this, Moloch is associated with Mithras and his 7 mysterious gates with 7 chambers. When a child was sacrificed to Moloch, a fire was lit inside the statue. The priests would then beat loudly on drums and other objects so that the cries would not be heard. In Christian literature, Moloch appears as a demon. In Paradise Lost by John Milton, Moloch is depicted as a fallen angel, advocating violent rebellion against heaven. He is listed among the chief of Lucifer's angels and is given a speech at the Parliament of Hell, where he argues for immediate warfare against God. He later becomes revered as a pagan god on earth. He was also the one to give the oath system in hell, which later on was called Moloch's Oath, and also went on to rule an abominable sector of hell called Gehenna. Moloch is presented as a foreign deity who was at times illegitimately given a place in Israel's worship, as a result of the syncretistic policies of certain apostate kings. The laws given to Moses by God expressly forbade the Jews to do what was done in Egypt or in Canaan. You shall not give any of your children to devote them by fire to Moloch, and so profane the name of your God. Yet kings such as Ahaz and Manasseh, having been influenced by the Assyrians, are reported to have worshipped Moloch at the hilled site of Topheth, outside the walls of Jerusalem. This site flourished under Manasseh's son, King Amon, but was destroyed during the reign of Josiah, the reformer. And he defiled Topheth, which is in the valley of the sons of Hinnom, that no one might burn his son or his daughter as an offering to Moloch. Moloch promised wealth and healthy crops to humans so long as they bred healthy children to be raised as livestock for him and his legion to devour. Moloch's obsessive taste for the flesh of children is due to their souls being pure and untainted, thus being closest to God. By devouring them, Moloch devours the innocence of God's beauty and creation. By the medieval period, Moloch was incorporated into demonological hierarchies. In modern occult literature, Moloch has been associated symbolically with Saturnian archetypes, parallels drawn to Saturn or Cronus, who devour their offspring in myth, the inversion of kingship, ritual blood symbolism, systems requiring sacrifice for preservation of power. These associations are interpretive and symbolic rather than historically documented continuities. Moloch appears in various contemporary conspiracy narratives. Common claims include allegations that powerful elites engage in ritualistic ceremonies symbolically linked to Moloch, interpretations of large owl statues or ceremonial gatherings as connected to ancient sacrificial cults, claims that Moloch worship continues in secret societies. There is no verified evidence supporting the existence of organized modern child sacrifice cults dedicated to Moloch. Such claims rely primarily on symbolic interpretation, anecdotal testimony, or speculative connections. Moloch's name is often used metaphorically in political or cultural critique, to describe systems perceived as sacrificing the young or vulnerable. Thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe for more content.